this speaker needs very little introduction. Pat Johnson is somebody that we admire, that we are inspired by. And today in her presentation, I promise she will share some of her journey, some of the things that she has learned around the journey, and will invite us to come on this journey with her. So please help me welcome past international president, coach, speaker, educator, and mentor, Pat Johnson.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maria, for inviting me. Thank you to all your district team for having me and welcoming me so warmly to your district. I promise. How many of us actually make promises? And what is our relationship to our promise? So ask yourself, when you make a promise, do you tuck it away in your heart and soul and live by that? Just think for a minute. When the last time you promised somebody something? I promised to bake a cake for your birthday, perhaps. Or I promised to give up sugar. Well, sometimes we promise things to ourselves all the time, and we quickly forget that we even promised. Or I promised to love and cherish. What is your relationship with your promises? Do you keep your promise to yourself? Most importantly, do you keep promises to other people? Regardless of what it costs you. Sometimes our promises cost us a lot more than we thought they would. I promised to love my son unconditionally. Oh, was that a challenge? I had lots of expectations. I had lots of demands, but I loved him unconditionally when I reminded myself of my promise to both him and me. So today, I want to share an experience with you to start off. When I was a district officer in the executive committee of Toastmasters International, I had the privilege and honor of visiting District 81 in St. Lucia. It's in the Caribbean. And I was amazed and inspired when I walked into their opening ceremonies and the people all sat down in the chairs, and I walked to the front row, took my seat with the district director, and I was full of anticipation and excitement and pride in the turnout, the program they put together, and I was so happy to be there. I also felt a bit uncomfortable, because as they called the meeting to order, the chairperson said, "Let's all rise together and repeat the Toastmasters promise." Oh. How many of you would have felt like I did? I felt really grateful that I was in the front row facing the wall in front of me, and only that chairperson could see that I was the one person, the officer of our organization, who could not repeat the Toastmaster promise from memory. It was one of those somber, clarifying moments in my Toastmasters experience. A few days later, when I got on the plane to leave St. Lucia, I sat back in my seat and I relaxed, took a deep breath, and reflected back on the fun that we'd had, the learning, how we'd inspired one another, how I felt so connected to them. And I asked myself, how can I best fulfill my Toastmasters promise? And then it came to me, just as those members of District 81 did, that I could engage with it. I could make it relevant to my experience in Toastmasters and my members that serve with me and participate and learn with me. And I could bring it in my role at that time to the forefront of our organization. So I went away and I asked that we have the Toastmasters Promise put in all our magazines, that it start to be more visible in Toastmasters. And I'm proud that that Toastmaster Promise still pops up many times in those publications of Toastmasters, because of District 81 teaching me a very valuable lesson to look and remember my promises. So today I want to share with you, and I'm going to share a PowerPoint off and on with you. So please bear with me as I go on and off the screen with the PowerPoint. So just let me get. So I promise when I do my Toastmasters promise, I promise myself, most importantly, what I'm going to do. I promise my club members, my club, because they want to support me and help me reach my goals. I promise my area and my area director, because they're going to come around and see if I'm actually fulfilling my promise. I promise my division officers. I promise my district officers, because they're relying on my promise. And I promise our organization, because if I use the program, then the program will continue to exist. But if I ignore the program or disregard it, it will soon have no purpose in the world, and it'll disappear. So I realize how important my promise is. So for those of you like me who do not have the promise memorized, let's take some time and look at each one of the lines of the Toastmaster Promise. And I'm going to share my thoughts, but I want you to ponder your thoughts when we look at these. So as a member of Toastmasters International, I promise. Well, what do we promise? To attend, just wait a minute. I promise to attend club meetings regularly. What does regularly mean? Because the other words are pretty clear. What does regularly mean to you? So it might mean different things. If you belong to a club that meets once a month, maybe you actually go once a month. What about if we meet every 2 weeks? Is once a month regular for you? Is that what's expected in your club? How do you determine what's regularly? That's really a personal call. My club, my home club that I love, meets once a week, 7 a.m. in the morning for an hour and 10 minutes. And regularly for me means that I go every week. I am there. I am going to be counted on to participate and learn. And what I've learned, because if you're in a club like I have the good fortune of being, where exciting things happen, we hear phenomenal speeches, we see people making progress all the time, working the program. I don't want to miss a meeting because I'm going to miss something good. I don't want somebody to phone me and say, you should have heard Miles's icebreaker this week. It was amazing. I don't want to be in that position, because it doesn't matter how good a storyteller they are. They're never going to tell that icebreaker like Miles told it. Not even Miles the second time he does it. So I don't want to miss it. So my promise to me is that I'm going to be at my meeting every week, unless I'm at convention, unless I'm away with illness or something's happened in my personal life that's insurmountable. So ask yourself, you promised to attend club meetings regularly. What is regular for you? And we all signed this when we joined Toastmasters. For those of you going, oh, I didn't promise that. Yeah, you actually signed the promise when you applied for membership. So the second one is, I promise. Oh, I love this one. To prepare all of my projects to the best of my ability. basing them on the Toastmasters education program. So there's a whole bunch of spaces here where we can sneak away and lie to ourselves and make excuses, or sell ourselves short, or play less than we are, or discourage those around us, rather than leading around us, inspiring people by the way we lead. So my promise to myself is that all my projects, I'm going to prepare to the best of my ability. In some cases, those projects are going to take way more work than I thought they would, because they may be really challenging projects. There's going to be other projects that are going to be much easier for me to prepare to the best of my ability. And then the rule in our club now is basing them on the Toastmasters education program. Years ago, I was a club coach for the club that I'm now a member of, and they didn't do education program speeches. And this club had a lot of raw talent and a lot of potential. And I said, if you work the program, I will guarantee you growth and success. And they didn't believe me, but I said, I'll prove it. Work with me. And so we developed, actually, what would be the word? We adopted the mantra in our club: no non-program speeches. And everybody got on board. And if somebody got up and said, oh, I just have a pocket speech, people get, we don't do that in our club. Remember our mantra: only education program speeches. And it became the culture. It was that simple, that we needed half of the club to buy in, adopt that attitude. And now, years later, we're still living that culture because we saw the value and we had promised it. So we empowered people to keep their promises to themselves, to the club, to the area, to their fellow members, the division, the district, the organization. So what's your relationship with this promise? Do we make excuses? It's tempting sometimes with some of those projects, but I remind myself, I better get busy because this is a promise, and I tend not to break promises. Well, then we prepare fully for and to fulfill meeting assignments. This is hard if you plan your meeting as people walk into your meeting space. How can you fully prepare for and fulfill meeting assignments if you find out as you walk in the room that you're the Toastmaster? How can you bring creativity? How can you bring your very best? How can you bring something unique and exciting if you haven't had time to prepare? Now, let's be clear. We all can get up and survive. But is that what we're here to do? Is that why we signed up and paid tuition to be in this education program? To survive? I could do that with my friends over coffee, but my Toastmasters program is where I'm going to learn and stretch and be uncomfortable. So plan your meetings ahead so we can prepare and fulfill those meeting assignments. This is so valuable also when we have those new members coming in and they're scared and they're nervous and they're unprepared and they're phoning their mentors saying, I see I'm table topics evaluator this week. Can you help me? How do I do this? Well, if you have everybody in your club keeping their Toastmasters promise, we create an environment where we prepare ahead of time so that those new members have an opportunity to prepare, to keep their promise to themselves and to us. And then they can comfortably fulfill the meeting assignments. How's that work in your club? Can you change that in your club? Would you even like to change that in your club? Change the culture. Okay. The next thing that we promise to ourselves and others is to provide fellow members with helpful, constructive evaluations. Helpful, constructive evaluations. Two critical words here. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. How many of you have ever got a whitewash evaluation? Oh, Pat, that was so great. I can't tell you a thing that you could do to improve. Yeah, Dennison, great, thank you. Did you like it, Dennison, or not?
Definitely not, because it doesn't tell you what you can improve on. And there's always something where improvement is needed.
Absolutely. You know, my response is, where's my check for $10,000? If I've got nothing to improve, surely I deserve $10,000 for that presentation. And if I don't, please pay me a compliment that you care for me enough to show me and tell me how I could improve in your opinion. I only want your opinion because you're a valued member of the audience. So I haven't found anybody that was willing to give me $10,000 yet. So eventually they begrudgingly give me some feedback. I have to share a beautiful lesson around this, because I was serving as international president. So it was back in 2010, 11, a long time ago. And I came back to my club. Whenever I was in town and could attend my Thursday morning meeting, I always attended. So I went, I was very tired. I'd just come off the road. I have a really responsible executive job at work. But I was committed to my club because I promised that I would attend my club meetings regularly. I was in town. I had no excuse. I attended the meeting. We had a fellow member in my club. He'd been in my club about a year. He transferred in from another club. So I would say he'd been a member for about 4 years. He was a great evaluator. So when I got to the meeting, the people were all excited because I'd just come back from overseas and they wanted to hear about it. And they said, please get up and tell us some of your travels and your experiences. And our club mantra, no speeches without a program manual or a program speech. So somebody said, okay, great. Well, so-and-so is going to be your evaluator. This person who had had come into our club about a year later. So he goes over and he gets my program that I'm speaking on, and the meeting starts. I get up, I give my presentation, and when the general evaluator calls the evaluators, he walks to the front of the room, starts to deliver his evaluation. Thank you so much, Pat, for that presentation. Fellow Toastmasters, Madam Toastmaster, we deserve so much better. Mm. And the collective gasp in the room sucked every ounce of oxygen out. It was like nobody could breathe. And I saw people's faces get angry. And he continued, his name was Julian. Julian continued to deliver the evaluation. He said, we know you're serving at a high level. We know you have a really responsible job. We know you have a son that lives with you. However, you took our time. We're a learning organization, and you were not fully prepared. You did not give us your best, and we expect that of you. We respect you, we care for you, and we will hold you to a high standard that you deserve to be held to. He said, let me share some ideas with you that you might want to consider for your next presentation. And he went on and gave me this beautiful evaluation. I'll tell you, when the meeting ended at the end of that day, Julian was almost like the enemy. People were walking around him. People were treating him not very nicely. And I walked over to the door so nobody could get out. And I said, I want to thank Julian just so everybody's clear here. So I knew they were protecting me. I said, Julian was right on. And I said, I totally respect him for calling me out. And I said, it's a great lesson for all of us. It took them a while to warm up to Julian again, but I walked away with a gift that I'll never forget. Because every time I go to prepare to present, I think of Julian's words saying, we deserve better. That wasn't your best. You didn't prepare fully for this. And we're going to hold you to a higher standard. That was a gift. And he kept his promise and supported me in being better at keeping my promise. So I hope you have a culture like that in your club. So let's go back to our promise to provide fellow Toastmasters members with helpful, constructive evaluation. Absolutely. I promise to help the club maintain the positive, friendly environment necessary for all members to learn and grow. Just imagine how wonderful this was when I've been just reading Dr. Smedley's readings and all of his life story about the Toastmasters organization and everything, and how important this was when he brought his businessmen together to work and learn. And it's the same today, to have that friendly, positive environment necessary for us to grow. I always call it our safe laboratory, where we can fail, we get up, everybody dusts us off and helps us find our feet again, and away we go. We're like fledgling little ducklings, and everybody fusses over us and picks us up, or like Julian, holds us accountable and helps us forward. And I love this, that it's safe to fail and grow, to learn and grow. Really important to do this and keep this promise, because what we do is create trust and relationship. And you know, there's people that come to Toastmasters that build trusting relationships that are vulnerable with us, that may not be that anywhere else. This may be the first time, or maybe the second time in their life where they were actually felt safe. And those people that strive for perfection, this may be a place where they actually figure out that perfection gets in the way of their progress. How privileged we would be to be part of that journey. So create that positive, friendly environment where we can learn and grow. Keep the criticism out, but keep the love and the support and holding people to a high level of achievement present. Oh, how many of you push against this promise? I promise to serve as my club as an officer when called upon to do so. Oh, how many of us fight and scream when they say, Felicia, can you be secretary? No, I got too much going on. Can't, nope, find somebody. You should phone Maria. No, phone Pat. No, phone Anna. Phone Abhishek, he'll do it. I'm only telling you what I've overheard, right? This also came back to bite me, and because my promise is really important to me, I had to keep it. And I didn't want to be club president. And my club said, we need you. We've got lots of new members. We need you to be club president. I said, okay, I will do it. But I'm not going to do it alone. I want an assistant club president who's going to take over next year. And that way I didn't have to do it all alone. So don't think we have to do it alone. Keep your promise, serve as an officer when called upon to do so, but bring help with you. Groom somebody to take it over next year if you don't have succession. When I first started in Toastmasters 4 decades ago, we had a history and we had a culture in the club that I was part of, and actually the whole district that I was part of, that we had succession in our clubs. We started out to be the club president or the club's, or not the club president, the club secretary or sergeant at arms. And then every year we would progress up higher and higher. And maybe 5, 6 years later, we would be club president. And we learned a lot by doing that. And we had succession. Now it's much more a culture of dropping in, and we get parachuted into all kinds of roles. Although I will admit, I was VP of membership for the past 2 years for my home club, and I loved it. Oh, I loved it. And this year somebody wanted to run for VP of membership, and I so wanted to say, I wanted again, please. I wanted to run against her. And I went, no, she has to serve as an officer. She maybe made a promise to herself and to the club or somebody else. And so I said, I'll fill any role. So I'm the coordinator of special events this year, because we have 9 officers in our club. So we have a coordinator of mentorship and we have a coordinator of special events. So I'm the coordinator of special events this year. So I'm serving as an officer when called upon to do so. And it is a gift. It adds to our learning. I promise to treat my fellow club members and our guests with respect and courtesy. Really look at these words. What does respect and courtesy mean to your guests? What does it mean in your club culture? How do you actually do this? And why, if you don't do it, would they want to be part of you? We have people that come to our club that say, I can't believe what goes on here in an hour and 10 minutes, all that you achieve, the way you get along, the way you give feedback, how people take it, how you laugh and have good time. Everybody gets along. It's amazing. Great culture. And you promised to be part of that. To bring guests. You promised to bring guests to club meetings so that they can see the benefits Toastmasters membership offers. Some of us will say, well, I don't have any colleagues, or I don't have any friends left, or my family's abandoned me as soon as I start talking about Toastmasters. Get creative. Act like a leader. Leaders don't just give up. They look around, they find other ways of doing things, they get innovative. Do so. Get innovative, get creative, and see where you can find guests to bring. Really important, because you promised. You know what? If we all kept our promises to ourselves, to our club, to our area, our division, our district, the organization of Toastmasters, our clubs would all be distinguished every year, because these elements are all covered off and measured in our club success plan. And they roll up to our district success plan. It all is part of the process. If we bring guests and we're doing all those other good things in our clubs, those people are going to want to stay and learn with us. They're going to want to hang out with us. They're going to say, this is the kind of people I want to be part of. I want to be around people that are learning, growing, are successful. So bring guests, and to adhere to the guidelines and rules for all Toastmasters education and recognition programs. Play by the rules. Keep your promise. So Toastmasters is an education organization where people knock on our doors looking for leadership, listening, thinking, and speaking skills. So keep your promise. Think about how you can convert those guests into members where they become part and they promise to contribute to your growth, your development. And we can engage with them. We can make the Toastmasters program relevant to their life. So I'm not sure, I know I'm over time. I don't know how much time I have left for Q&A, but let's take Q&A and we'll get Leslie refigured out. She can figure out whether I'm on red or green or where I am for Q&A. So any questions?
Question. the Pat chat, I'd love to read that to you. It's about the evaluations, and that part of your speech, I think it appealed to many of us. The question is, how do we give a valuable evaluation? What are some of the key takeaways that we can implement?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think for the key to valuable feedback is to talk to the person that you're evaluating ahead of time. This is why you have to schedule your program ahead of time. You have to have at least a week. We're all busy. So have a week in advance, have your program scheduled 2 weeks at least in advance. So as an evaluator, I can contact my speaker and I can say, what do you want me to look at? What was your feedback last time you spoke? So I can add on to that. What specific in this is challenging for you? So I think it's really important for us to relate to the speaker. Isn't that what you would want? I want meaningful evaluation. That means I don't want somebody to tell me, oh, you flap your arms. If I like flapping my arms, or if that suits me, or I'm not ready to change that. But there's many things that we can get that will be relevant. So make sure that, I think for it to be valuable, it has to be relevant to the speaker. So check with them. Thanks.
Valuable and relevant. Thank you so much, Pat. That was a great answer. Most effective ways to build distinguished culture.
Oh, there's many, many ways. We've got all the tools. We just have to use them and not be afraid to use them. When I went to, the best thing I can do is share a story that happened for me, because I went to coach this club. It had 3 active members. This was a number of years ago. And they said, we want you as a club coach. And I said, too busy, not interested. They said, nope, we want you. I said, nope, too busy, not interested. I will send you some possible candidates. I sent them 3 people to interview and they came back and they said, nope, we want you. I went, you only get me on 1 grounds. And they said, what is it? We'll do it. I said that we all keep our Toastmasters promise and we're going to create the club around the Toastmaster promise. And they promised me. So we went to work. I said, you must have an executive meeting every month, because you cannot lead if you're not meeting and figuring out how you're going to lead, because you set the culture. We must have programming done at least 2 weeks in advance for our club so that everybody can prepare fully and that the evaluators can give valuable feedback. We must stop all negative talk within our club meeting. You can have those bitch sessions, excuse my word, but you can have those on your own time, not in our Toastmasters environment, because this is a learning room. This is our learning laboratory. So have a scheduled 2 weeks ahead of time. We must have, we cannot have non-program speeches, not allowed, not allowed. You cannot use our learning time for your soapbox. We agreed that our guests would not do table topics because they're taking time and opportunity away from the people that paid to learn and grow there. And in an hour and a half, an hour and 10 minutes every week, not even all our members get to speak. So why would we give away our program to a guest? They can agree, they can watch, they can appreciate it, they can give a comment at the end, but they're not taking our experiential learning away from us. We must, what else did we do? We went that we must have guests. And we developed a welcome package for the guests. We had somebody always assigned to meet guests at the door and assign them to an experienced Toastmaster to sit beside, so that Toastmaster could explain our processes, because it is confusing. Remember your first Toastmaster meeting with all those strange words and all that clapping and cheering, and you're going, nobody does that for me. So we have to explain to people so they're not intimidated, so they don't walk away going, oh, I couldn't do all of that. We had evaluations always had to give feedback for improvement. They must give feedback, or the general evaluator is going to call them out. We do not evaluate content. I don't care if you agree with my perspective. I care if I made a good argument that somebody could follow. So so evaluate what the criteria is for the project, not the content. The content is simply a vehicle for us to practice our skill and build that skill of speaking. So those are the things that we covered. That training was not an option. We absolutely went to TLIs. We got all our officers trained. And if you thought you knew it all and you weren't going to training anymore, then we asked you to step up and become a trainer, because we were going to TLI. And I'll tell you what, don't tell people in my district this. Is there anybody from District 21 here? I've been going to TLIs and officer training for 4 decades, never missed one. And I still learn things. I don't learn it about the role that I'm filling, but I learn it from the people that are there. I hear new ideas. I meet new people. I get ideas of other clubs. I hear what people's successes are. I hear all kinds of stuff that inspire me. They're part of my community. So I don't just go for me. I go for them as well. So I go to encourage them, cheer for them, see who's stepping up, see who's going to possibly be our district director in 5 years, all those things. Because shouldn't we always be looking for rock stars in our group? I love looking for rock stars that don't know they're rock stars yet. And we find them at TLI and COTs. So everything that builds club excellence is what you want to create. And that's how it works to create that culture and to hold people to it. I will admit that right now we're rebuilding our culture in our club, because we were 3 years online and we have 2/3 of our members are new and they don't know the meeting in person culture. And so we're teaching people that and relearning it ourselves, but it's exciting. So there's some of that shaking hands, not leaving a lectern unattended, all those in-person protocols that we have that we love.